Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the Entrepreneur Spotlight Series, and we have a special author on the show today. We've been featuring a lot of authors lately, and we came across Miss Stephanie Malbasa, and she has a unique story about a book that she wrote that she wanted to sort of leave for her family. It's a real interesting story how she decided to write the book, but what really caught our attention is it's called Musings for Madie, and we're going to get into who Madie is in just a moment, but it's quotes to live by when life gives us life. And I love that because we're going through life and life gives us life. I mean, we all have it. We all have these waves that come through once in a while, and then you get the big wave in life, and then the small waves come through. And Stephanie decided to write a collection of her, I'm going to call them moments, her joyful moments, her challenging moments, and they're all filled with opportunities for growth in her book, Musings for Madie. So I'm very delighted to have Stephanie on the show today. Stephanie, welcome to the Author Spotlight Series today.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Okay, we had a little pre-interview. I've read about your story. I mean, you've got a beautifully curated selection of quotes and personal insights. And really, the book that you wrote serves as a very heartfelt guide to embracing each moment and finding the joy in the little things. But before we get into it all, let's talk about the Musings for Madie. What started you thinking about writing this book?
Well, every day for the last 20, maybe even 30 years, I've kept a journal where I would write down a quote of the day and then what I'm grateful for. And some of it's, I call it prayers and gratitudes, my golden list. And I decided when Madie was graduating from high school last spring that I would start a journal that a friend gave me and put down just what was important to me, quotes that I liked, live in the moment, kind of things that advice, but not wanting it to be preachy. So I thought if I wrote why it was important to me, it would not come across as you need to do this, this, and this, kid, So, um, um, and so then I handwrote it, and my husband decided to copy it and said, you should really print this out, and I think other people would be interested to read it. So that's what brings me here today.
Yeah, I love it so much. I mean, you have all of these inspirational, timeless words of wisdom that you were writing down. Many of them are set to uplift somebody's spirit and maybe remind everyone, including people in your family, about life's many blessings, I'll call that. And your writings really sort of encompass what it means to have your life filled with joy. So was this something that you kind of caught on to when you were much younger, when you were in high school, or when you were in elementary school, or how did this sort of gratitude thinking start in your life?
I'd probably say it started a lot later than high school, but I'll say life gave me some real life. And you go through able to be, it's easy to get depressed. It's easy to get overwhelmed, whether it's relationships, financial woes, the whole gamut, death of a family, and the ability to really to focus on joy in each moment and laughter. I think that there's not a day that's gone by for the last 25, 30 years that I haven't written down that I am grateful for joy in each moment and laughter. So
I love it. Let's talk about Madie. Who is Madie, and what, if you could think of the big lesson that you want to leave for Madie, what is it if you can encompass it in one big lesson?
Madie is the eldest of my nine grandchildren, and she is now a sophomore in college. She is a reader. She's very thoughtful, and she's on the cusp of just entering life. You go to a school in Cleveland, Ohio, and now you're getting exposed to the big world or the real world, as they say. But just wanting her to know a part of me. We've had a wonderful relationship, and it was wonderful to share this with her.
I love it, Stephanie. Of course, you've had a wonderful journey as a wife, a mother, a grandmother. I mean, a lawyer, a business owner. You're known for some of your humanitarian work. It seems like the younger generation is it's different than, our generation when we were growing up. What are some of the things that you're seeing in the younger generation that you wish maybe they would think about, differently, or maybe in a way that um, they're able to put some of their challenges behind them and move forward in their life in a better way?
Andy, you probably see it with your your family, your coworkers, the people that you come into contact with. But I think it's very difficult and becoming increasingly difficult for all of us to put aside the cell phone, to say, okay, the Bing is coming up on my computer. I mentioned to somebody one of my concerns about the interview today would be that my computer would be giving me reminders to do whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And I still don't know how to shut it off. So,
Right.
so I think having that presence of being really, whatever you're doing, be all there.
Yeah, I like that. So many people are on their phones. My wife and I were out at a coffee shop not too long ago. There were six young 14 and 15-year-old boys sitting around a table. Now, when I was a kid, we'd be mischievous, we'd be joking with each other, we'd be telling, riddles and jokes and, joshing with each other. But all six of these kids had their heads down in that cell phone. And I watched, and my wife and I said to ourselves, wow, there's no communication happening. There's no interaction going on. They're all on their cell phones. And what I've noticed also is the younger kids today, they have a little bump in the back of their head because they're leaned over so much looking at that cell phone. And I bet that's something you hope that Madie, of course, gets away from the technology if she can and sort of engages in life. Is that part of the quotes that you want to live by?
Absolutely, absolutely, Andy. I think, and I think that's the perfect message. I mean, for her and for everybody, is just wait a second, live life, and we only have a short time. So how are you going to use it?
Yeah, I love that so much. And of course, you have so many different quotes. How long does it take for you, or how long did it take for you to sort of put all the quotes together in a binder that you could present as this book, Musings for Madie?
I should probably show you my daily journal real quick without having it be seen. Okay.
Wow, that's great.
Is books like this I've kept for, like I said, 20, 25 years, and I have them dated. So it was more going back to those books and saying, well, what was a quote and why did I have it starred? Because if I really like a quote, I'll triple star it or double star it, and that's my code. Um, so that's part of it. And then in terms of writing it, it was, well, why was it important? And sometimes it would be in the context of when I had written down the quote. Um, or sometimes it would jar a memory of somebody that was very important or had a special message in my life, mother, father, um, just our other mothers.
Yeah, it makes sense. You mentioned journaling, Stephanie, and we've interviewed some very high profile CEOs on the show, people that are running billion-dollar companies, some startup founders that, are name brand recognized people. And one thing that we find very interesting is a lot of them have in common is they do the journaling. When you did your journaling, do you do it at the beginning of the day or the end of the day? What's sort of the process for your journaling sort of expertise?
Most of the time I start was the first thing I do in the morning. I start with, I didn't grow up learning Bible verses, so I write down a Bible verse. Not that I'm remembering them, but I write them down. And then it's looking at the quotes, and I'll be reading, look through what I've read or highlighted, whether it's a current book. There's a funny books that I'm reading right now that I'm surprised at the quotes that I'm getting from just somebody else that's writing. So we should all write our own obituaries, is one of the quotes.
Wow, that's great. That's really great. That also kind of ties in with a book I once read called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, where they say you should think about dying and what your obituary would look like because it helps you live with intention. And I wanted to talk about intention with you because, you're known as a person, that understands the beauty of living with intention. When we talk about that, what do you mean by that? And what do you want Madie to understand about living with intention?
I think that each of us, if we meditate or take time out, we will hear a voice that kind of spurs us to do what maybe we're supposed to do. And some people call that vocations, some people call it inspiration, some people call it a calling. But I don't think that you can know when you're 17, 18 years old where you want to be when you're 35, 50, or 70. And I think you kind of have to do it regularly. Say, okay, am I supposed to be focusing on this, or am I supposed to be over here doing that? And juggling life is not easy. Mother, wife, aunt, whatever you want to call it, doing my legal work or running a business or running a foundation years ago. It takes a lot of juggling. And I think you have to quiet yourself and think about, okay, what's the next step?
Yeah, I like that very much. Of course, if you could speak to your younger self, Stephanie, because I go through this exercise quite often. I say to myself, hey, Andy, if I could speak to me when I was 20, what would I say to my 20-year-old self? And now that I'm, a little bit older, if you ever thought about what you would say to your younger self if you had a chance to kind of go through the time warp and talk to your younger Stephanie?
Yes, I think we talk about taking inventory of ourselves, but it's important to look at the positives as well as the negatives. And I think that if you focus on what we can't do or what we're not good at doing, we can be paralyzed by fear or paralyzed by insecurity. And so my advice to my younger self is to, hey, look at what you're doing that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned the can do or the can't do. And I always reflect on that, Stephanie. And I always say to myself, one of the most important things that a young person can learn is the can do attitude. Because so oftentimes we hear, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't promote that, I can't get into this, I just can't. And I think if you change that to the I can, it really changes one's life a great deal. And in your musings for Madie, do you talk about sort of positive affirmations a bit and what it means to have that can-do attitude?
I think so. I think so. There's probably I'd have to look at it and say, okay, where did I say it? But I know it's part of my message. I think behind you, if I'm reading it and it's on a smaller screen for me, is it impossible? But I am possible.
Yes, nothing is impossible. We kind of like that.
Oh, okay. And the word impossible is I am possible.
I love that. See, I just learned
That's
something
not
from
my
you
own.
today. I am possible. Nothing is impossible, and I am possible. That's that can-do attitude. That's
Exactly.
great. Do you have a new book on tap? Do you have more musings or quotes to live by, sort of for an edition number two now that number one's done?
It's in process. It's kind of more getting out of neutral. I think following COVID, with a lot of my friends as they start to retire, or the younger friends being um, changed by COVID, I'll say, in terms of their work environment and technology as it changes. The idea is to get yourself out of neutral to go forward. So
Yeah,
some of it's along that line. So
I love that. Get out of
maybe
neutral, go
maybe not
forward. Yeah,
just for the 17-year-old. It might be
I
a little
love
more
it. You have
crazy
so
than
many
that.
different gears. We do have a lot of entrepreneurs that watch the show as well, Stephanie, and part of what you're teaching can be very important for entrepreneurs as well, especially younger entrepreneurs that are having a tough time in their business. maybe they're hitting a wall, maybe they don't know which way to turn, maybe they're not living intentionally, like we spoke about. For entrepreneurs watching the show or younger entrepreneurs, based on your experience as a business owner and a lawyer, et cetera, do you have some advice for the younger entrepreneurs about keep on pushing when times get tough?
Yeah, I think take your job seriously. Don't take yourself seriously. Um, I think sometimes people get so self-important that they don't realize that if you like what you're doing as an entrepreneur, do it with quality. I think one of my biggest, whether it was Regina Brett or Seneca, I can't remember who said it, but kind of get dressed, get up, get dressed, and show up.
I
And
love that.
and as an entrepreneur, you have to be a self-starter. You have to be attentive to your clients, and that's what's important. If you're doing what's good for your client and you like what you're doing, it's a win-win.
Yeah, I love that so much because in today's world, if you just show up, that puts you ahead of so many other people out there that just refuse or can't for some reason show up. And I think that's a great piece of advice is you put your pants or your dress on one leg at a time and you get there and you just show up. That really puts you so much ahead of the rest of the pack. And we talk about it all the time as well. I mean, simply saying thank you or simply saying you're welcome, just the niceties in life really gives you an advantage over so many other people that don't do that. Is that important to you as a person trying to teach Madie the right thing is, let's share that type of wisdom just to be appropriate and say thank you, say you're welcome. Men
Gratitude.
should pull the chair out for the women or open the door and that type of thing. I'm a big believer in that, and I would imagine you are too.
I am. I think being grateful, and saying thank you. I mean, you walk down the corridor at the Cleveland Clinic, and there's a woman um, dusting off the shelves. Does anybody say thank you to her? Well, a couple of days ago, a woman all masked went over and said, "Thank you for doing what you're doing." And I thought, good for you.
I love that. Yeah, we need more of that in the world for sure. If you have a certain message you want to leave behind, not only for Maddie, but the rest of the grandkids and the great grandkids, if they say, oh, Stephanie left me this one thing, this one way in which I should live, this one sort of key idea that if I live my life like this, it's going to be a much better life than if I didn't. What's the one message that you'd like to leave, for your family behind?
Find joy. Find joy in each moment.
I love it. I love it. When you were younger, did you enjoy as much every moment, or were you more caught up in the grind of business and your attorney work and your business work, or were you always this person that was able to find the beauty and sort of being able to slow it down like you can now?
I would say that probably people would say I'm a bit of a Pollyanna, okay? Um, and so it's probably always been my nature, but I think to do it with reality. I mean, um, I think when somebody passes away and we feel so sad, we feel sad because we have memories of joy. And I think if you find the joy all the time, um, it's a great way to live. Yeah, there's been setbacks. I mean, don't think I've always been. Oh yeah, everything's hunky dory. Not so
Yes, I understand.
much.
As you've gotten older, do people reach out to you and ask for your advice and ask for whether it's business advice or life advice? And if they do, how does that make you feel? Do you like giving and imparting that advice? I would imagine you do based on the fact that you wrote this book.
I think I'm always honored when people ask me how I would do something. The young people that I am able to mentor in a fashion. I think one of the comical ones was I had a young man who was my assistant while he was going to college, and I said the one thing you need to do is be kind to the court employees. and one of my other mentors used to say, "Oh, the one thing a public servant doesn't like to do is serve the public." And I think,
Ah,
oh gosh, no. Okay, be nice to them, and they'll help you immeasurably. So
yeah, I do like that. You mentioned some foundation work that you did. Uh,
for about 12 years, my husband and I started Aspire to Nav Foundation. We closed it this past year because it was becoming, we were not able to handle it. There was so many, it was an all volunteer organization, but the idea was to help people when hope is at risk. And as such, there's other organizations that do very similar things. So that's one thing that I gave a lot of time and heart to. But
yeah, that's great. You changed the world, and that's what it's all about. Let's just briefly talk about the process of writing a book because we do have some aspiring authors. Did you write it the old-fashioned way on a spreadsheet or on a Word document, or how did you sort of process the book writing process, if you will?
well, this goes to my age probably, but I am a very tactile handwriting person, and I write by hand. I have volumes of paper, and then I'll spend a day or two typing up what I think is important or what I think might be usable and trying to store it somehow and figure out how to organize it. So that's a bigger process. I'm learning that process.
I
But
love it.
it's writing first thing in the morning, um, planning that I'm going to write for an hour, whether I want to or not, um, and taking the time. I mean, probably easier to play solitaire or some sort of mahjong or something on my.
Yeah, that's inspirational because again, you're living with intention. You have a process, you make a habit. So you wake up every morning and after you do it 18, 20, 25 times, depending on the research, it becomes a habit and then every morning you can do it. Right now I have a habit every morning. I've started about 3 months ago where I do memory games and I do it every morning for 30 minutes because I want to use my brain as much as possible. And it's the same thing with what you did with writing with intention for an hour every single morning. Now, when we think about it and we think about writing and we think about your musings and these quotes to live by, before you published it, did you send them around to people so they could read it, or were you the final say on everything that went in the book?
I was the final say of everything that went in the journal that I gave to my granddaughter. My husband copied it and he said I should type it. So then I typed it and then I sent it to a few friends to say, what do you think?
Oh,
And
that's great.
and
That's
then
great.
it was searching to find Writers Click to help me publish it. So
That's wonderful. How many more editions do you think you have in that brain and soul of yours, Stephanie?
that's been everybody's asking me that. Well, when are you going to do the next one? So um, it may come sooner than I think. So
Good. Well, when you get it out there, we'll have you back on the show. I want to
I would
thank you
like
so
that.
much for coming on the show today. It's Musings for Madie. Stephanie Malbasa wrote the book Quotes to Live By When Life Gives Us Life. And I love that so much. For entrepreneurs watching the show, grab the book. There's a lot of insight based on Stephanie's wisdom and her reflections throughout her life that really shaped her journey. And make sure you find the joy in the little things and strive always to become your best self, whether you're seeking comfort or inspiration or a fresh perspective. Read the book. Let's watch out for Stephanie's edition number 2. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the Entrepreneur Spotlight Show today, Stephanie. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, Andy. Really enjoyable. Thank you. Good luck with you too.